And we are going live right now. Sorry guys, it's taking a little longer than expected. Post. So I want to welcome everybody today. Thank you for being here. My name is Dinora Gonzalez, and I am the project manager for DreamCatcher. And DreamCatcher is a program that it was created by the Freeport McMoran Foundation in partnership with Thunderbird for Good. This is a program that is for women entrepreneurs, and we do it free, and it's a training for Native American women. We actually give classes here on campus. We have the faculty teaching these classes, but unfortunately we can't do that right now. I want to let you know that we're creating more content that is specifically for online, and some of this content is going to be digital resources with practical advice for entrepreneurs. We want to focus on the series of topics that increase health for your business. This is going to be being created in different ways as webinars, also like knowledge bursts, little videos, and we're also going to be doing podcasts. So in the next newsletter, we're going to be sending you, ladies, just a little kind of like questions for you to let us know what are the things that you need and what kind of knowledge that we can provide for you. So it will be practical, and it will be also for growing your businesses. So we're very excited today to be here, and I'm going to have Sandra Jabra, is the student worker from Thunderbird for Good, to introduce our host today.
Hello, everyone, and I would like to go ahead and give a warm welcome to Tudor Montague. Tudor is going to share with the rest of us his business journey of creating Spirit Mountain Roasting Company, and he is going to be able to give us a little bit of background on how he was able to put his passion to practice. So I will let you go ahead and take it away, Tudor. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro and for the opportunity to be here and share my story with you all. So I have a presentation, and I'll go through it. It'll cover the kind of the background of the company, how we got started, our journey from beginning to where we're at today, some of the obstacles we faced during that time, and then of course when COVID hit. But a little bit about myself. I'm a Fort Yuma Quechan tribal member, enrolled member here at Fort Yuma, went to Haskell Indian Nations University and then the University of Kansas. I got my degree in environmental studies and spent close to 15 years working for tribes, primarily in the Phoenix Valley. So I was working for Salt River, Pima Maricopa Indian Community, Gila River Indian Community, and then a nonprofit, Intertribal Council of Arizona. So spent, that part of my life in the environmental field. During that time, I had always had an idea of starting a business, and I was focused. One of my hobbies is home beer brewing. So I've been a brewer since college, and that was kind of my drive, was to open a brewery. Started getting everything together. I went to a brewing school to get professional training. Started putting a business plan together, and then found out the startup capital needed to get into brewing is immense. It's huge. So I didn't have the access to that capital at the time. Started looking at other options, and coffee is another, has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And there's a connection with, when you brew beer, you're taking ingredients and applying processes to create a product. Well, same thing with coffee. Take a raw coffee bean, apply heat and energy, and roast it, and it becomes a product that you can enjoy. So I immediately started going down the coffee rabbit hole, and then put the business together in my mind and took a few steps, and then got the company going. And I guess with that, I can start the presentation and give a summary about the business here. See if I can get this. Okay, how's that? Is it up?
Yes.
Good. All right. So like I mentioned, see if I can get this here. So I just kind of want to cover the start of our journey with Spirit Mountain Roasting Company, talking about, we had a big transition. I got the company started in the Phoenix Valley and Mesa, made the decision to come home to the reservation. So that in itself brought a lot of challenges, but at the same time, opportunities. And some of the connections that were made that really helped get us from phase 1 to phase 2 in the business. Then of course, 2020 and the challenges we faced at the beginning of this year till now. And then what we're doing to look forward, you know, what are our next steps? So with that, the company I founded at the tail end of December 2015. I had some savings. I used my savings to purchase the small coffee roaster that I still have today. It's a 2-kilo coffee roaster, basically roasting 4 pounds of green coffee at a time. Purchased that in 2014 and really just dove into the process, started dialing in the roasting process itself. Founded the company, got the business going, LLC. And I had luckily I had a good friend that had a company in Tempe that had some extra warehouse space. He was kind enough to let me set up the roaster in the warehouse space in Tempe and got the wheels turning there. So basically got the start by, you know, had the process kind of handled and started selling the product to family, friends, and then every now and then we'd have a curious neighbor in the industrial park that I guess would smell the coffee roasting and come over to check it out, and you know, picked up a few return customers that way. So really started to get a handle on the business side of it. And it was late in 2016 when the decision was made to bring the business back home to the reservation. It was at this time I started to see real opportunity for growth. And I really wanted to, if the business was to become successful, I wanted to grow the business at home on the reservation. I wanted to be able to provide some jobs, economic opportunity to my community rather than being in the Phoenix area. It was a big decision. There's a lot of things we had to take into consideration upon doing that. So where's home on the map? So to the right is, the borders aren't too clear, but you can make out Arizona. Fort Yuma, Quechan, we're right away, about the midpoint between Phoenix and San Diego. So we're right on the Colorado River. It's about a 3-hour drive from Phoenix. So a little bit about the nation itself. We have a land base of about 45,000 acres, just over 3,000 community members, and probably just under half that live here in the community. We're ag-based economy. The majority of our lands are leased out to industrial agriculture. We have a couple of small casinos, own a couple of trailer parks, and then we're adjacent to the international border crossing, and we have a parking lot there. In the wintertime, we get a lot of tourists and a lot of foot traffic there. As I mentioned, we're on the Colorado River. Our land base straddles both Arizona and California. The largest city next to us is the city of Yuma, with about 100,000 people, and then there's a couple of towns in Mexico. And then the city of El Centro is about 60 miles away in California. So we're pretty rural, pretty remote, with the exception of the city of Yuma. So coming home, we immediately faced a few challenges being away from the metropolitan area of Phoenix. And the main one being was a lack of infrastructure here in the community. And by that, I mean, there's literally no space to start a business, especially industrial or manufacturing types of businesses. We don't have an industrial park. There's no warehouses that are there. So that was a big obstacle. And then the potential customer base, we went from Phoenix Valley is probably a few million people to at most 100,000 here in Yuma. And then also I had concerns about supply chain, getting the raw coffee. Is it going to be easier just going to a metropolitan area, you know, shipping and everything, and being such a rural space, how much our costs going to increase to get the raw products here. Was able to negotiate and get through the second and third challenges relatively quickly, but it was the first challenge that was caused us the most problems. So end of 2016 and 2017 and 2018, I was essentially, I'd refer to myself as a gypsy roaster. Like I said, there was no space here in the community. So I had to basically store the roaster in storage. And when we would get orders, I'd have to break it out, set everything up, roast the coffee, break everything down again and put it back in storage. It was during this time while I was doing this, we did secure our first wholesale accounts, which was a small cafe in town in Yuma, and our casino picked us up as well. So we were gaining momentum, gaining accounts, but it was really unsustainable for me. It was real difficult, and as you can imagine, in the summertime, literally and figuratively, it was pretty tough and not something that could work out in the long term. But during the summer of 2018, I was lucky enough to run into some folks that told me about this program based out of New Mexico, put on by New Mexico Community Capital. It's called the Native Entrepreneur in Residence Program. So I applied for the program, went through the whole process, had several interviews, and was accepted. And that was, I think I started in July 2018. And in that program, they pair you with the business mentor, and I think it's probably kind of similar to what the DreamCatcher program is. Someone that, you know, has some connections with the type of business and can kind of guide you to your next steps. So help me refine and focus the direction of the business, connected me with industry professionals, which was really important. So they introduced me to some coffee roasters in Albuquerque, which really opened my eyes to what was possible physically within a physical space and roasters. And they also helped work on adjust the business plan. So like I said, I had the small roaster. I saw a lot of potential for growth, and I knew I needed to scale up. So there was a critical time meeting these folks and being a part of this program. So this is our graduating group and some of the mentors through New Mexico Community Capital. And right at the tail end of this program, I approached Native Community Capital, which is based in Phoenix, and they're a Native lender. Had my adjusted business plan, submitted it to them, and was approved for a small business loan. So that in itself was, again, came at a critical time, but it allowed me to overcome that last challenge of not having a space out here in the community. I was actually able to build out the small roastery that I'm in today, purchase a much larger roaster. So I went from 4 pounds of coffee at a time to 20 pounds. So 5-time production capacity increase. Was able to bring on 2 community members to help me with packaging, distribution of the product. So really started to pick up momentum. And I also at this point started training one of the team members to roast as well. So I had a small apprenticeship program that we had started. Really started gaining some speed and momentum. And that was, April, I finished the shop. So we had about, just over half a year of just kind of getting processes streamlined, getting everything going. And then 2020, we were poised for significant growth, we believe. And then COVID hit March and April. Literally everything shut down. It was, I think at the beginning of April, within the span of a week, we lost all of our wholesale accounts. They just stopped, everything shut down. So saw that immediate drop of revenue, which we were primarily a wholesale operation at that point. We did have a small website platform set up, but we were focused on wholesale. Also with the effects of COVID and this being a really small operational space, the team members had to, it wasn't safe for them to be here, and there was so much uncertainty. And again, on top of that, what's going to happen to our supply chain, the green coffee, the producing countries this was a worldwide epidemic, so everybody was being affected. Green coffee supply production was being affected, so everything just hit all at once, as you all know. But so where we stand today, our wholesale accounts, misspelling their wholesale, they're slowly coming back, and at this point, it's probably 80-90% return. So everybody's starting to open up again. The accounts that we had in the past are coming back online. Our casino just opened up this month, one of them, and the other one's going to open in October. So they're coming back online. One of the silver linings for us was we did have a website already. And when everything shut down, we started to see a jump in our web sales, which did help with the pain of losing all the wholesale accounts. So we were lucky in that we had that already going. We saw an increase in web sales, but we still don't have the team members back in the shop. Looking to get that going pretty soon, working on safety plans. But as many of you may know, on the communities, there's a lot of multi-generational housing. So you have elders in the same household, and this is the case with our team members. So we're trying to be extra cautious, but we understand we need to continually make adjustments to adapt. So what are we doing? The plan is to bring the team back shortly. I have a safety operational plan that I've put together. We have PPE here in the shop. So we're thinking of rotating schedules to get folks in here. Looking at diversifying our wholesale accounts. We're primarily selling to cafes, shops that carry our bags. Talking to a shop in Oakland right now that's a community market. So we're looking at getting in stores. Website has been doing good. So we want to continue to increase our traffic and sales. So we're looking at increasing our product. Sample packets, gift packets, possibly including teas on the website. And then we're also thinking about if the conditions, allow for it, to do a pop-up coffee stand here in the community during the winter months, like a drive up, come and get a hot cup of coffee. So this is kind of what we're doing. This is just a real quick snapshot of who we are, what we've been through up until this point. And really it's so much unknowns with this, with COVID. We have our ideas and what we want to do, but really what happens tomorrow in the next few months is kind of up in the air. So with that, I'll just end the site, and I guess we can have discussion.
Thank you. Now, everybody, if you have any specific question, or if you want to know more about how you can pivot and the things that you're doing with your businesses, especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic, as Tudor is mentioning, he has to be more active online, and he has to kind of adapt to what is going on in the market right now. So my question will be maybe explaining a little bit what was the biggest challenge for you, just to start getting to your customers and being able to survive this time.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it was probably within a week's time, all the wholesale accounts disappeared. So that was the majority of our revenue. We had a website going, so it really became a matter of advertising, getting the word out. And that's where, for us, social media really works. That's our only advertisement that we're doing at the moment. So we're not doing any paid advertisements or anything. So it was a matter of, okay, learning social media, getting a handle of it, and start putting our brand out there. So I guess it was that pivot. It was, I was focused on wholesale, working with, wholesale accounts, and then, okay, all of a sudden, let's focus on the website. We saw some sales that were coming through. How do we increase that? So it's getting a handle of social media, learning it, and putting out the brand, trying to get, and really it has helped. We've saw a lot of increase in web sales and then people reaching out to us about coffee. So.
Thank you. We have a question from Andrea, and she's asking if you can talk about the specific challenges or barriers and opportunities that you might face when you took your business back home. I mean, basically to the reservation versus staying in Mesa.
Yeah. So like I said, it was the desire was to come back home and grow the business, so I can have a direct impact on the community. But that's a good idea and a good goal, but the realities are not always easy, you know. And for mine was the lack of infrastructure. Talked to our development department and they were all about it. You know, they were happy to have a community member owned business come home, but it was being able to actually set up and operate. The city of Yuma, they have industrial parks, they have space. I could have done that, but it was really, my intent was to be here. I think if I would have found a space out there, it would have been easier, but it was really just having a home to set up. Infrastructure is the biggest thing, and it continues to be the biggest thing, because I'm lucky I have a space here, but if things go as I'm planning, I'm going to outgrow this, and I'm going to want to get a full-size warehouse to be operating. So infrastructure continues to be one of the main obstacles here in the community.
And when you were facing that specific hurdle, I mean, do you approach anybody in the reservation, or anybody help you to go, you know, to kind of like go over that?
Yeah, I did. I worked with our economic development office, and like I said, they were supportive of me being here, but there's a small business space. I think it's about 5 offices, but there were, and I don't know what it was before, if they were BIA or something, but they're vacated, and a couple of small businesses are in 1 or 2 of the offices, but it's not a manufacturing or production space. So it's literally like an office space. So that wasn't going to be able to work for me. There was or there still is an old rec center. We had a trailer park that got shut down. So there's a building there, and I was looking at that. It would be ideal, but it needs a lot of work on the infrastructure itself, you know, before it can even be occupied. So we were looking at that, and we're still have an eye on it, but it's really, there wasn't, you know, a physical space to operate. We have land and we're in a good location. It's just development of business infrastructure.
Great, thank you. There's another question from Tanaya. Who are your competitors? Are they external to the trial? And if so, sorry, it's just my computer is, do they have like tribal preference laws to support tribal businesses growth?
Yeah. So the community does have tribal preference laws here, which I'm grateful for, and I'd like to think it's part of how we got into our casino, but there are no local roasters here in the community or in the city of Yuma. I think there's a small cafe that roasts their own coffee, but there's not a production roaster in the city of Yuma. So that was one of the opportunities coming here versus being in the valley, Phoenix Valley. Yeah, there's a larger potential customer base, but there's quite a few commercial roasters that are in Phoenix. So specifically roasters, there aren't commercial roasters here in the city of Yuma. So I'm lucky in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we also do have tribal preference laws, and there is another community here, Kokopah, and I'm looking at approaching them pretty soon too. So, and I think they have tribal preference laws. It'll be their community members first, and then other natives after that. But hope that answered the question.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have another question from Valentina. So what is the one thing you would have done differently?
In retrospect, probably would have tried to ensure I had a space here before I moved down and was the Gypsy Roaster, because that would have I probably could have started gaining traction quicker than I did. I intentionally had to hold back on sales and promotion of the business when I didn't have a space, because I didn't really want to pursue additional accounts because, like I said, it was such an unsustainable setup that I had. So I would have liked to find and locate, and it may have ended up being in Yuma at that point because I had nothing for sure here in the community.
Great, thank you. So as you know, DreamCatcher focuses on Native American entrepreneurs development. And it seems that many women have assisted you and worked with you over time. What advice would you give to aspiring Native American women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's interesting in my journey. The majority of the folks that I was able to look up to, and even really recently, have been women. So, you know, I'm thankful for that. Listening, I continue to listen. But advice I would give is don't be afraid to ask. Reach out to folks. And like I said, being put in touch with another roaster that was in the business was such an eye-opening experience. It really helped me get an idea on what could be done. So don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out. Even if it's not in the same business or same industry that you're in, there are commonalities with regard to supply chain. If you're creating something, you need supplies to create it, you know, whatever that is, and how does that work? So don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you're an entrepreneur in business already, you have that outlook on life. You have that eye. So look at these times and where are ways that you can fit into this shift. You know, a lot of people are focusing on food sovereignty. You know, or is there a way you can tie into some of these things that people are focusing on now? Yeah, I guess starting to ramble there, but.
So on the same note, for the ladies that are already entrepreneurs, how do you advise them to create this mindset to be risky, to be more flexible, or to foster creativity?
Yeah, you know, so coming back home, I made the move and there was nothing guaranteed. I mean, it was scary. It's scary to start a business, to take that step. And anytime you're going to make a big move or make a change, it's scary. But being an entrepreneur, you have that in you. You have to be willing to take chances, and as much as you can, take, I guess, an educated chance. You know, do as much research as you can. Due diligence. You know, what is it about the industry that you're getting into or that you're into? You know, what are your best options to take? I mean, there's so many unknowns in being an entrepreneur. It's just have to have that confidence. Keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Thank you. Another question is, what part of your business development do you need the most support in? For instance, you mentioned the lack of access to real connections in the business industry.
Say that again.
What basically the lack of access to real connections in the industry that you're in. So what part of your business what's the most that you needed most support when you started?
When I started, really, yeah, finding and knowing any industry professionals in the roasting. There are a handful of native roasters. If I knew they were out there, I mean, I was trying to look, but now I've kind of discovered some. I would have reached out to them. That's something that I would have done, and that was really it. Is seeing it done on a professional scale. You know, if you're able to, whatever network or business you're in, and I think that's what's so valuable about DreamCatchers is you're bringing groups together. If I might know somebody that is in the same industry as some of you, so reach out, you know, and ask questions, because that was really it, just understanding the industry itself that I was getting into. I liked roasting, I understood the process, but there's a lot more to it than that. So
Thank you. One thing that I would like to ask you is about technology. We've seen with the pandemic that there's a lot of what are the technology that is available that it actually help you in your business for being operating not 100%, but at least helping you to go through this time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the way my business is set up is I'm lucky in that I'm production. So everything I do is here. I didn't have a storefront, so I didn't have to worry about customers coming to a table and sitting. So I'm creating a product and sending it out to people. So I was still able to operate fully, but technology, social media to advertise, learning that, putting that to use, the Zoom, having meetings with folks just allows you to still stay in touch. So one of the coffee supplier that I get green coffee from, they've adapted, and now that they're doing a lot of Zoom presentations on the state of the coffee supply chain. So now I'm able to still, even though I'm not physically going anywhere, I'm able to sit here, listen to what's happening, and take that in and make my purchasing decisions based on that. So technology has been huge, and I think it can still be used even more so. I mean, like so much more can be done with regard to social media on my end. I still need to do that, but the tool is there to still keep people connected. And like today, we're able to share ideas and talk. I think it's critical in being able to keep businesses alive in a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another question. Indigenous from seed to cup. Can you explain a little more about that? What do you mean by that?
Absolutely, yeah. So part of my business, I guess, perspective and ideas, I come from the environmental field, so I was aware through my previous career of the impact we have on the resources and the earth, and did a lot of work in that respect. So I brought that into the business, the type of packaging we use, compostable packaging, but also being a community member, understanding what obstacles we face as minority communities. I realized that I had a chance to work with and choose producers that are either minority coffee growers, women producers. So the coffee supplier that I'm using now, they, I guess their operational premise is focusing on these types of communities. So they're an importer that's based on Portland, Oregon. They're a certified B Corporation, so they've had third-party certification look at their operations and say, yeah, they treat their growers, right, fair trade. But within their portfolio of green coffee, they highlight a lot of coffee, not a lot, but within their portfolio, there's coffees that are grown by women cooperatives, for example. So I take it upon myself when I'm looking to purchase coffee, where does this green coffee come from? It could be a Colombian coffee that's multiple Colombian coffees, but maybe one or two are produced by either women producers or indigenous growers. So I make the choice to spend my dollars on this lot of coffee that's been produced by a women co-op, by an indigenous co-op. So we try to promote that in our line. So I've had a few coffees that were entirely indigenous. So that's indigenous from seed to cup, literally since the coffee was planted by an indigenous hand, roasted by an indigenous hand, indigenous to seed to cup. So that's our philosophy. Not every coffee is. If it's not women or minority or indigenous produced, it's fair trade certification. There are some communities that are mixed populations. Maybe they're not organic, but they're working on the certification. So it's part of what we build into our business, I guess, ethos.
And can you explain a little bit what fair trade is? I mean, I'm a coffee lover. I know what it is, but a lot of people are not really familiar with the movement.
Yeah, it's so basically when you look at commercial coffee production, Brazil, Colombia, they're producing millions of pounds of coffee per year. A lot of it is, so quality of coffee is ranked. It's kind of like wine. Some specialty coffee, and that's everything we use is specialty coffee. So it's the highest ranked out of 1 to 100. Just think of that. It's I think mid 80s or higher. It's ranked by like wine sommeliers, I guess. There's an equivalent in the coffee world. Commercial industrial coffee, think of Folgers or something like that. They're using, in most cases, they're using the cheapest bean they can buy. These are produced by large holders that produce millions of acres, typically not always organic. And as you can imagine, they're more profit driven, so they're not going to pay their work. They're going to try to get as much product for cost, I guess to say. But fair trade is a third party organization coming in and looking at the prices that are paid to the producers. And the producers, I mean, is like a co-op of people, co-op of growers. They make sure that the supplier buys coffee from them at a fair price in the market. They're not lowballing the producers and trying to get the most coffee for the cheapest price. Fair trade is paying higher than the industry standard to the grower. So it's a way to ensure when you buy a product and it says fair trade, it's been looked at and said, yep, they are getting a fair price for their product. It's similar to organic certification, kind of the same process. There's a third party that looks at how the coffee was grown, pesticides, weren't used, such and such. So it's a certification that ensures prices are paid.
And from all the coffee products that you offer, which is your personal favorite? And if you can share the information about your website or the places that we can purchase your product.
That's a tough one. It's it changes from like right now. I just got a coffee, organic fair trade coffee from Chiapas, Mexico, and I've been loving it. We're gonna have it up probably next week. I was hoping tomorrow. We might get it up tomorrow, but each coffee is so unique. I love each one of them for different reasons, but right now, probably because we just got it in, it's the Chiapas. But yeah, each coffee is so unique in the way they present themselves in the cup. So each one that we have up there, I love, but the Chiapas is the current favorite. But yeah, we do have our website. It's spiritmountainroasting.com. You can check us out. We have Instagram and Facebook as well.
Excellent. And if you can give any advice on how to have a positive mindset, especially for Native American entrepreneurs and during these times that is very difficult.
Yeah, it is. Gosh, with everything going on, it's hard to stay positive sometimes, but I'm seeing specifically with like our web sales, people are forced to or they have been forced to take a pause. And with the lockdown, people were at home a lot. And I see a lot of people are searching out products that have meaning or have purpose behind them. So, and that gives me hope because people are kind of gravitating towards brands like ours. And I think people are waking up to that. And if you're a native owned company and you have a product that's created by natives, people are starting to gravitate towards these types of products. So, keep that in mind and tell your story. That's what people want to hear is conveying your story. When people want to spend $1 on a product, if there's an accurate story behind it, they'll be happy to do it and they'll likely come back, So I think there's a shift happening and people are a lot more conscious of where they're spending their dollars. Native-owned businesses, we're so few and far between to begin with. So we're like a rare commodity, and I think that can be a good thing.
Thank you. And another thing that I would like you to ask you, how do you think that your business is embracing change, and how do you think that the natives specifically need to adapt in this kind of situation with their businesses?
You know, any change is difficult. It's difficult because if you're changing something, like one of the beauties of having an operation, or if you're creating something, you refine your process, you get comfortable, things become easy. You're like, okay, I know how to do this, A, B, C, D, get it done. But anytime you have to change something, it's difficult because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to have to, it slows you down. So for me, it's the shift to focusing on social media more. You know, it's like, okay, we got to learn this. We got to take the time. You know, how do you put these together? How's the best way to get them out? So change is always difficult, but it can open your eyes to opportunities that you might not have looked at before or focus. So for now, we're going to add more diversity to our offerings on website. You know, unless I was forced into that, otherwise I would have been focused on the wholesale side of it. So now I'm forced to look at it. We're going to do it, and I think it's going to benefit the company that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And there's so the ethos component of your business model is very attractive to social, environmental, conscious buyers. And how do you think that you're capitalizing on this?
You know, I think just trying to accurately tell that story. And on the website, we have an About Us page, and we try to do that. And then I think the types of posts or whatever it is you share on your social media, try to always connect that with what you're doing. And people, if they hear about your product or your brand, they're going to take a look at you, look at your social media, and you're telling your story in every post. So even if it's now to a year from now, people can look back and see what you're talking about on social media. So I just think it's try to be clear and concise about your message, and just be true about it, you know, and people will see that.
And do you see indigenous businesses as having their own unique business model, and that doesn't necessarily focus on the bottom line?
Absolutely. I think that's kind of one of the reasons I took the direction I did. Like it would have been much easier for me to gain ground and grow in Phoenix, but I wanted to come back here and provide opportunity for my community. And I think any indigenous business is looking at things more holistically than about just the bottom line. Yeah, you need to make the revenue to pay the bills, but what are you going to do when you're successful? You know, I think a lot of us want to help our community out, you know, whether you're on the reservation or not. If you have a successful business in a city, you still have family that are back on the reservation, or relatives. I believe that we have a more holistic perspective, and business is maybe a tool to help us along that path.
And we have another question from Monica. Were you hesitant on getting a business loan, and what advice will you give on getting a business loan?
Good question. Absolutely. I had got into this with the intent of not accruing any business debt. So I saved money and got the roaster, the small roaster, used all my own money to get the business going, permits, branding. Did not want to get a loan, but it came to the point where at a time you're going to need to scale up your business. If you want to grow your accounts, there's only so much you can do with specific piece of equipment. Like for me, it was a roaster. I realized that, okay, if I want to take it to the next level, I'm going to have to get a larger roaster, and I would need more revenue to do that. And I can't generate the sales with just a small roaster alone and no roof over my head. So it was to the point I didn't want to get a business loan, but realized if you do it and you do it right, you're able to take on that debt and cover your expenses and still grow the business. So yeah, I didn't want to initially, but came to the point where scaling up, you needed to take that on. At least I did.
And but the same thing about growing your business. Do you have like a plan or goals for your business to grow steadily? And how do you achieve that?
Mhm. Yeah, so ultimately what I would like to do is open a cafe here on our community again, not in the town, but here on the community. So the goal is to have a brick and mortar cafe, and also a larger production site here on the reservation. So that would involve, an actual industrial park or space, and a brick and mortar building. So the longer term goals, but that will entail kind of, I guess, again, the same thing, a scaling up. With regard to my current capacity, I have a lot of room to grow. I can still expand quite a bit with the equipment that I have now. So I can, it's a matter of, okay, when I get to my capacity, where am I at? It may likely have to be another loan, but if you do it right, it can work to your benefit. It's understanding that side of the game, and I'll just say game, but it's the lending, and it's intimidating. I didn't want to incur the debt, but sometimes it's a necessary thing, and I'm thankful that I found a native lender. So I took my debt on with the native lending company, which to me means a lot. That's dollars that are staying within. I'm fine with it. So it's a scary thing, but it can be done.
And what advice will you give for somebody who is trying to grow their business and where to look for the resources? I mean, like you mentioned, where to find the local, like somebody from the reservation that they can give you a loan or give you like a piece of advice how to relate to your business and make it grow. I mean,
I think as an example, so the NEAR program that I went through was invaluable for me at a really critical time. And I think what you all are doing, the DreamCatcher program, it's really important. So those of you that are in it, maintain your relationships. I'm still keeping my relationships with the group that's in New Mexico. My mentor and the other cohort that were in the group, we still communicate regularly. Sharing ideas through them. Our local tribal business economic development group, I'm still communicating with them regularly. There's a SBA website, Small Business Administration. So there's a lot of resources on the web, maybe not specifically tailored toward Indian country, but that's where programs like this, I think, are a critical component. There are Native Chambers of Commerce, Native American Chambers of Commerce for each state. I think those are another valuable resource. So if you're ready in business, reach out to them. I've attended some of the meetings in California just to get to know some of the folks. So just reaching out, now it'll be Zoom meetings, but still ways to do it. Just when you build relationships, keep them intact.
and I also noticed that you talk about like resilience in your business. And can you share a story with us about resilience? How is this helping you to continue with your business and your dream?
Yeah, I think, from our move from Phoenix to here was a really something I know I wanted to do, but it was scary, and there's nothing is guaranteed. So just continuing to put one foot in front of the other. I had the roaster in storage. I'd get accounts. It'd be summertime and hot and get tired. I'm like, man, do I really want to do this? But it's, I think part of it is having a passion for what you're doing, because being in business, it's not always the funnest thing. There's parts of it that are difficult. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, it's going to get you through those times. It was 115 outside, and I was sitting by a roaster that's 400 degrees. I love doing this. It might suck at the moment, but my passion, helps me get to that, helps me put that one foot in front of the other. So, having a passion is definitely key, or really loving what you do. And I think just as Native people, we have resilience built in us through, our historical experiences.
And another question will be, what is your type of leadership? I mean, you have a team. How do you talk to them? And for somebody who's a business owner, how to develop those tools in order to become a good leader for your business?
Yeah, so there's a team of us. So the two that you saw, and there's a couple other behind the scenes, and I have a buddy that's managing our website, and he's out on the East Coast. But really, it's about you know, communication. Communication is super important. Expectations when you're here, you know, when you're going to work and you're actually doing something, just let the team members know, you know, what you expect, show them, and then don't be afraid. I mean, for me, I've had to do everything on my own, just job that I was asking the team members to do. So it's being able to step in and out of those roles, but just communication is key, and treating people fairly, you know, treating everybody fairly, and being open with them, I think.
Thank you. If anybody have a specific question, please open your mic and ask a question directly to Tudor if you want. We have a couple of ladies from the DreamCatcher. I see Jacqueline and I see Valentina and Rosetta. Thank you for being here. I think for women specifically, it's very difficult to start a business. And for being Native Americans, what would be the best advice for a woman to start a business to continue being like a role model for other ladies or other kids that they want to start their own business?
I just, you know, from my experience, women, ladies are strong, and a lot of times they face a lot more adversity than males, even from the same community. And so I know from the get-go, y'all are strong. Your entrepreneurial mindset or spirit, use that strength that you've used, you know, throughout life. Because I know you face a lot of adversity, especially on communities. So, you know, being a male, trying to give advice, I'd just say continue to be who you are. Have confidence in yourself. It's scary when nothing is guaranteed, but you have a passion for what you're doing, just keep doing it. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. You'll find help and guidance at times you'll least expect it. So just keep your mind open and keep your heart strong.
Thank you. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we want to really thank you, Tudor, for spending this hour with us, for sharing your experience and just to give us advice. And for anybody interested in the session, I can send the presentation to you guys, and also stay tuned. We're going to be sending you different questions and see how you guys can participate with us in future sessions, and be developing more content. And thank you so much for your time, Tudor, and everybody for being here today. And we hope that you continue having success. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite, and I hope you know, some of the things I said can be related to, regardless if it's not the same business, there's similarities, you know. So I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, you too. Thank you.